my name is Catherine, Catherine Elweiss, or Cat for short. I'm a developer advocate at Bellsoft, and I am the host of this live stream series on the CyberJar channel. And today I have the pleasure and honor of hosting Siva Reddy. He's a developer advocate at JetBrains. He's a super cool software engineer. I mean, I can't count how many times his tutorials on Spring Boot have helped me on my journey towards becoming a better developer. Hello, Siva.
Hey, Catherine. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming. Everybody, if you have any questions for Siva, drop them in the comments and we will answer them as we go, right? So I'm sure you have lots of questions. So fire them away. I also have questions for Siva, of course, because the topic of today's talk is like super exciting. Productivity hacks for Spring Boot developers. And I think that's a very, the the most essential productivity hack I can think of right now with this nasty heat is having an air conditioning. I mean, really, that's for me. I'm just slowly dying here. My brain is melting. So without the air conditioning, that feels like, yeah, I'm not being super productive right now. So say hi, say where you're joining us from, what's the weather like at your place. We just had like a brief discussion with the Siva that it's very hot at our places too. So Siva, how do you manage the heat? So do you have air conditioning or are you just, tolerant already to?
Being in India, I think we kind of got habituated to heat. But right now, I am in a city called Hyderabad. It is very pleasant weather now. It is not hot. So yeah, I'm very good condition now, and I'm more productive in that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, me too, actually. But I mean, that's hot, but I don't know. In India, it's always hot, right? So you don't have this cold weather at all, right? Would you like
Kinda.
uh, a winter with snow and snowman and
I don't, we don't see snow even in winters. It is like in winter, especially maybe in November, December, or January, it can get to like a 16 degrees Celsius or 18. That's cold for me. That's it.
oh,
So, so if you are in talking about, let's say, 25 or 30 degrees Celsius, that's a normal for us, very normal. Not at all heating.
right. Okay. Well, friends, I think we are ready to dig in. Again, post your comments, your questions, and I think we are ready to start. So, Siva, could you please just tell us a little summary of what we are going to discuss today?
Sure, sure, sure. So first of all, let me introduce about myself. I am Siva. I am a developer advocate at JetBrains, and I have been doing software development for the last 18 or 19 years. And most of the time, I work with Java and Spring Boot, and I love Java ecosystem. So, along this journey, I have seen some hype cycles, and then, of course, now we are in the age of AI power development, and this is a big shift happening now. The way we are building is drastically changing, and every day there is a new way, a new tool, new AI agent, and all this. So, in this journey, how we can be more productive. Maybe some years ago, it is about, okay, if I know XYZ framework, I can be more productive. If I know some IDE shortcuts, I can be more productive. But things are radically changing with the AI. So now, with all the new emerging technologies and AI tools and all that, how you can be more productive. So I'm going to share my journey. For the last 1 year, I have been using a wide range of AI tools, and I myself learned a lot of IDE shortcuts, and so I want to share the things that I learned in the last 1 year, and probably they can be helpful for you too.
Great. Okay, so what are we going to start with? Idea shortcuts, maybe?
Um,
No?
First,
Okay,
let me address the elephant in the room. Okay, first, okay, let me share my screen.
sure.
Okay, share screen entire. Okay, now, okay,
Uh,
let me go to my ID.
uh-huh.
So, you can see my IntelliJ IDEA.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so first, let's talk about when we talk about the developer productivity. Now, obviously, we need to talk about okay, what about the AI? Now, does learning IDE shortcuts really matters? Because I can simply ask AI to build some feature, and it's going to build. I hardly write code, so. What is the thing? I need to be more productive. Now tell me, how can I be more productive, right? And along the way, you might have seen on social media, like in all social media, not only on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or any social media, you can every day see things like, okay, yesterday I have wipe coded so and so application. I don't know much about coding, but I was able to build an application and I went to production, and all these kind of stories you keep on seeing. First thing, I don't believe all of them. Second thing, yes, you can wipe code a small POC or a small sized application. That works with the way we have how powerful the AI tools right now we have. We can do wipe coding and build a small scale application. Yes, that works, but that does really works with your real applications, the thing that you are building for the last 10 years. Are you able to use AI tools effectively with such big applications? Is it really working? That's the thing I kind of tried, and then I learned few things along the way. And another thing, when I start using these AI tools, like 1 year or 1.5 year ago, I started with obviously with ChatGPT. I asked a bunch of questions and then it gave some answers. My initial impression is it is impressive. Like it is not only about one area. You can ask about movies, you can ask about technology, you can ask about anything, and it kind of giving a decent reply. I would say it is not 100% accurate, but it's not completely off. Also, it is giving a relevant answer. But the more I start using for coding, many times it is giving completely wrong answers or not even compile code, all that thing. Like I thought, "No, it is not going to really never replace me as a developer." So that's what my initial impression is. And then along the way came anthropic models, and then even OpenAI models, newer models are getting better and better. And then at one point of time, I can ask to build it a small application, let's say a to-do list application or a bookmarks application, something like that, a small application. And I was really surprised. Like it is like almost the way I write the code. It generated almost 80% of the code just like how I would write it. But for me, it might take let's say 2 hours or 3 hours, but it is able to build that application in 15 minutes. That was a little bit of surprise and shock. And so, what I'm trying to say, the AI tools are getting really better, but that doesn't mean that now they are in a situation where you can simply ask it and then build a real application, completely trust, and then just deploy the application. Now, based on my experience of using various AI tools, it is mostly like you need to treat them like a very passionate, over enthusiastic junior developers. Like when you give a task, you just go ahead and try to do as fast as possible without thinking through all the other implications of the thing. Like when you are building a real application, there can be a situation where you make a one tiny change, but the implications might be in many things, something positive, something bad. So as the developers, we need to think through all that and then do the necessary change, right? But right now, I see AI agents are like, yes, they are very knowledgeable about a wide range of technologies, but it is not kind of a very senior level, architect level kind of a knowledge, and then they don't do, at least that's what my experience is. But the good thing is you can kind of attune to teach them, just like the way you teach a developer, right? When a new developer joins your organization or your team, you kind of, okay, but this is how we write the code, and these are the practices we follow, and I would like you to follow along, right? So in the same way, you can provide the guidelines for AI tools so that they write the code as close as the team writes the code, so that you get the maximum benefit out of your AI tools. So now we are way past that asking ChatGPT and then copy pasting the code. We are way past that stage. Now we are using agentic IDEs. Like there are a wide range of IDEs now that provides AI capabilities. For example, JetBrains, we have Zuni, and also we have AI Assistant. There are two features, and also you might heard about Cursor, Windsurf, and Cloud Code, Gemini CLI. So there are a lot of CLI tools and IDEs and all that. So we are going to use agentic IDEs going forward. That's for sure, right? So how we can use them in a way that it is going to work like us, like how we write the code, it should write the code in a very similar fashion. So how we should use these agentic IDs. So can we simply ask, okay, I want to build so and so application. Let's say I want to build a shopping cart application. You can go ahead and ask, okay, build me a shopping cart application. That obviously is a worst prompt that you can give, but it may build a decent shopping cart application like a POC that may work. But that's not going to be a production grade quality, obviously, right? You need to think through the scaling and all that. But again, if you are trying to build some SaaS application, or you are trying to put something into a market for business validity, I don't see anything wrong with that vibe coding and then just validate your idea. But if you are working on a real system that's been in production and you want to enhance it, uh, I don't think vibe coding is a thing you should go for. And also, when you want to build a feature, how you can proceed? Like you can simply ask, okay, I want to implement, let's say, user authentication system or something like that. Okay, it may or may not build the entire feature in the way you expect it, because there can be multiple steps and it has its own understanding. So you need to give more details, and then there is a good chance that it is going to build a thing properly. But in my experience, I would like to ask the audience to just ping in the comments, how was your experience when you ask an LLM or an agent, okay, build me some feature, and do you get the feature the way you expect, or it's like a mostly 60% aligned with your actual idea and you need to change that. So the problem I face is when I ask to build an entire feature, assume there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subtasks of that feature. And if it implement all those 5 subtasks in the exact way you expect, that's a great win for you. But if it took a different idea and different way of implementation at step two, and all the further steps depend on the step two, there is a good chance that all the implementation is will be in a different direction. Then what you need to do? You had again either prompt LLM saying that okay, change this and then modify this, or you go ahead and do it manually. So it is going to be a back and forth, and it's going to cost something, right? It is not free. Like there is a token limit, and then you will be charged based on the tokens. So it is not very optimal, in my opinion. Instead, what I realized over the time of using AI tools, instead of asking for building an entire feature, you think through, okay, what are all the subtasks, or even you can ask the AI like, okay, I want to build this feature, but come up with a plan. What are the subtasks I can go ahead and to implement this feature, and then you can ask one subtask at a time to implement. Why? Because if you are asking one subtask at a time, it is easy for us to review the generated code, because I still believe we should review the generated code and then commit. I don't like the idea of just ask AI to build the entire feature and then whatever it generated, even if it works, I like to review and then commit it. But if you are asking to generate an entire feature, that may involve a lot of code changes, and we all know how it goes, right? For any developer, reviewing code is not the most pleasant thing, right? At least I don't like to review the code, especially if it is too much of code. I would say looking good to me, right? That's all we do. So I like to review small subset of changes, so that if there is anything wrong, I can just regenerate the code, changing, okay, this is not what I expect, this is how I would like you to generate the code. So it is going to be a small change and easy to review, and there could possibly be less cost, it may cost less. Okay, so in my experience, when you are about to build an epic, usually in Agile we call epic and features and all that, right? If you want to build an epic, don't go entirely asking to build an epic. Instead, go feature by feature or subtask level. That's easy for us to review and then implement it. And another aspect of using agentic flows is determinism versus non-deterministic. Because you can ask AI, okay, I want to build user registration or something like that, but you don't quite know what kind of a table structure it is going to generate and what kind of a exact flow it is going to generate. And there are always, when you think of a feature implementation, there are always places where you may think I can do it in a this particular task, subtask, in much more deterministic manner, and then I can leverage AI for implementing the rest of the things. So there is always some things that you can do it faster, maybe using IDE features, and then there is some part of it you can offload it to AI. So let's see, let's say, imagine you are building some database-driven application, and usually we create, let's assume we are building a Spring Boot-based application, and then we are using Spring Data API and all that, right? Now, when we want to build something, you can ask AI, okay, go ahead and build this feature. But for that, you may need to create SQL script and Flyway migrations on JPA and then repository services and all that. Your AI might be able to do it, but there is no deterministic outcome of it. It may generate just like the way you imagine, or it may not. But here is one thing I learned. In that entire implementation of a feature, there are certain things that is more feasible for you to do it and then delegate some task to the AI. Let me show you some example of it. So here I'm in a different window of IntelliJ IDEA. Here we have some simple Spring Boot application, and I have some Flyway migration scripts. Here I have a users post comments table. Okay, so here entity, I do not have anything. So now I just want to build some feature. For that, I need to have JPA entities, repository, service, and then I will implement the controllers and all that, right? But here are the things. You can just go ahead and ask Juni, okay, I want to build this feature, and it may generate all those things. Or it is not deterministic. It may generate the way you create the SQL scripts, and accordingly, it may create JPA entities. But I would prefer to do this by myself. Why? It is very deterministic. For example, let's say I will start the application and I can connect to the database. So I can create entities, and let me select Okay, here I have base entity, and I'll set the relation and for post as well. Okay, so here if you take a look at IntelliJ already introspect the database structures and then automatically choose what is the ID generation strategy is used, and all the mappings it has already figured out. And I can say, okay, generate the entities in this package. Go ahead. So it is going to generate all the entities. Okay. So here there is a deterministic outcome. You no need to think, okay, I hope it is going to generate just like the way it is properly mapping. It is very deterministic. Okay. So once you have the entities, now the next thing is creating the repositories. Again, in recent versions of IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, you have this new feature of Spring Java component. If you are building a Kotlin based application, you will get a Spring Kotlin component. So here, if you select, let's say I want to create a repository, right? So if you start typing, let's say a post repository, okay. So based on the name, it is kind of a figure out, okay, it is a repository or it's a service or something like that. And if you select, it is automatically opens this dialog where you can select, okay, for what entity you want to create the repository. This is one, and here is the package, and I can create it. Okay, so it is creating like this. Okay, so not only that, you can also generate multiple, let's say, repositories. So something. Okay, so here, not only that, you can also generate for multiple repositories as well. Okay, that is a cool feature. Like you don't need to manually create them. And another very nice feature is, let's say we have, let's go ahead and create a service. Let's call it post service. Okay, it got created, a post service is created. Now I will create a list of posts, get posts. Okay, now let's say we already have post repository, right? Let me delete it, and just I would like to demonstrate another very cool feature of IntelliJ IDEA. So here we have post entity, but we do not have a repository created, but I can type, okay, find all. It's going to automatically open this dialog box, and then you can just right away create not in entities. You can choose the different package, and then it is going to create that repository and automatically inject it here, and then you can call any method on it. So it's like a flow. You can be in the flow, and then you don't need to switch to create the repository and then come back and then write this code and then inject it. So you can be in the flow. Okay, here I need a post repository. So you can right away do that. Or you can even go to this entity from this shortcut also. You can go ahead and create a user repository now. Okay. So these are all the small things that you can do with IDE without relying on AI. Why? I can simply ask the AI tools and then it is going to generate it, right? First thing, as I mentioned, there are a few things you get very deterministic results. And second thing, cost. And it is sometimes you have a specific need that you want to create in certain way. So all those things you can do using IDE features itself without relying on AI tools. So now that we have,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have a question. So, as far as auto-generating GPA entities and maybe database schemas, I know that there are plugins in IntelliJ IDEA that help us with schema generation or entity updates, like JPA body, right?
yes. So here we have, so when you have IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, you will automatically get this JPA Buddy plugin bundled. This is the thing that is providing all these features. Okay, so behind the scenes, JPA Buddy plugin is enabling all these features.
All right. Okay. As far as I know, JPA Body has like a freemium license, so it's already available in the community edition, but with a limited set of options. But
Yes.
yeah, that's one more incentive to get IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. Right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So another nice, cool feature is like, okay, we can use method. Spring Data JPA supports this finder methods. Let's say we want to return. Okay, not so in user we have email and password, right? So let's say we are writing a method for login, and obviously we want to use find email and password. Okay, so here, so IntelliJ provides this auto completion introspecting the user entity, and based on the properties it has, you can automatically type this and it will show all the matching criteria. So here you can do this, and slowly you are going to get more request changes, right? Like if assume if user entity has a disabled, logged, and all those kind of fields, you are going to add them, right? Like okay, disabled is false. You can actually do this if you have a disabled false, and logged is false, or something like this. You can go crazy with all these finder methods, but obviously this is not a good practice. It works, but it is really really not a good practice. So if you have something like this, just because it is convenient, IntelliJ allows you to refactor this. Simply say, you can give a logical name. This is obviously for login, and you can select this named parameters, and it understands that method name and generates a query, and it is giving a logical name. So you can do all these refactorings. But imagine with just a couple of clicks you can do this in your IDE. But you can do the same thing asking either let's say you can ask AI assistant or Zoni. But if I can do with a couple of clicks, I would prefer that rather than asking LLM and waiting for 2 minutes before I forget what I was doing.
So
So
there, yeah, sorry. So there's a question from the audience. Are these only for Ultimate version? So are these features only in Ultimate?
yes, and if you go to JPA Buddy plugin, there is a website where you can see what are all the features available in Community Edition itself, and then what are the features available for full Ultimate Edition. And I would like to say, so recently, maybe you have seen this or might have missed. IntelliJ IDEA is moving to a unified distribution, which means there won't be IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate and Community editions. There will be one edition. Uh, but for free, there are a lot of features enabled, and then there are some features that are only available in Ultimate. But the good thing is, with this unified distribution, you are going to get a lot more features than what you have in Community Edition. So I think in 2025.3, it is planned to release as a unified distribution. So keep an eye on it.
Which is like super cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to it really. Siva, maybe a little spoiler. What kind of features are going to be free in this new unified edition?
So earlier, we cannot create even Spring application from Community Edition. There is no option,
Yeah.
right? Now,
Mhm.
you can create a Spring-based application. So here there are some description of okay, what are the things that you can do. You can get some syntax highlighting for various frameworks. So in this blog post, they have detailed what is going to be available and all that. So I would strongly recommend you to take a look at this article. It is very detailed,
Can you
explaining.
please post the link in our comments, and I will post it into the general chat.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so
Okay.
so also I think JPA buddy, you can. Okay, so here maybe you can take a look at what are features available in community and what are available in ultimate, so you can take a look at it. But the thing is, earlier it started as a separate plugin, but many features are being ported into IntelliJ IDEA ultimate to support natively. So maybe you may not get 100% accurate information here, but that is the idea, like it is going to support all these features.
We have another question
um,
from the audience. Please show us some use cases by using AI assistance features by connecting either Gemini, ChatGPT in IDE. Well, Siva, if we can do that like on the fly, then sure. Otherwise, that's called for another stream.
Fine. Okay, I will try to quickly try to showcase here. Let's say this is a sample application that I am using for demonstration here. And let's say I have, let me open this. Okay, I have this user context details. So here I'm using Spring Security and I'm trying to get the authentication and who is the current logged in user ID. This is working code, but I have a gut feeling that this can be improved. I don't know how. I just know that I can improve this. So in IntelliJ IDEA, there are two ID products, AI products that people kind of get confused. So this is AI assistant. Okay. So new chart. So this is AI assistant, and then there is Junie. So AI assistant is more like you do one task, maybe in one or two files, and you want to change something, you want to implement some feature, something like that. Whereas Juni is like a autonomous agent where you give a task, and that may involve creating a bunch of Java code or make any Flyway migration changes. So it is more like an entire feature kind of thing where you give it and then it takes care of doing all that thing. So right now, let's say I don't know how to make it better, but I'll just ask improve or refactor to make it more readable, something like that. It is very big, but let's ask. So here there are two charts, two modes, either edit mode or chat mode. Let's go with chat mode, and I'm just going to ask how can I improve this code. Okay, so here it is going to come up with some ideas. So it created some message and created some context, claim constants, and then split that one method into multiple to make it more readable. So as you can see, it is taking one task, one small task, and then come up with some. So if you are happy with this change, you can simply say apply, and it is going to make those changes here, and you can review and accept it. So here you have all this code refactored. Now I can say, okay, it is more readable looking at each method. So this is how you use AI assistant, or you can directly make it edit mode and then directly say refactor this to be more readable or avoid duplication or something like that. You can do that as well.
I have another question, Siva. We can use Junie or AI assistant to generate some code for us, but shouldn't we check it for maybe performance or security issues? Because AI assistant can be sometimes like a junior developer. So it may generate the code that works, but it might be suboptimal for us. So what do we do in these cases?
So I usually ask Junie. Usually, whenever I build some significant code changes, whenever I implement some significant code changes, I usually ask Juni to go through all the code and then come up with a task. Let's say, uh, review all the code and create a review.md file with all the observations, including scope for improvements. Security issues, potential bugs. So you can ask here, and instead of code, you can. So in Juni, you have code mode or ask mode. In code mode, you can ask and then you can generate some code changes and all that. So here we can even select a code mode. And if I run this, it is going to go through all the code and then create this review.md file with all the findings. So usually I do that, like specifically if I am interested in, let's say, I guess if there are any code duplications, I can ask for, okay, go through the code and then find are there any duplicate code segments, and it will show all those things. Or you can ask, okay, where can I improve this application, or is there any security issues that you can find. So we can ask that and it is going to generate that report.
Nice. That's nice. How about using, so do you use the combination of different plugins? I mean, Juni is a really unified solution, but I know IntelliJ IDEA has lots of useful plugins for checking the code quality. Like, for instance, I really love Digma AI. So it inspects the code and finds problems with the database queries, well, with general performance, or usually with database queries. And also there is a Sonar Cube. Sonar is kind of a linter, right? So again, you can enable this plugin, and it shows you the highlights, the places in your code which might be improved, right, or which might be related to some issues. So do you use these plugins as well?
So in the recent times, I haven't used, but I know like there is a SonarQube plugin where you can configure to the project, and as you code, it will show directly in your IDE as you type, instead of waiting for running the build and then doing the sonar checks and then getting to know, okay, these are the valid violations. You can right away see as you type your code. So I have used it in the past, but in the recent times, I haven't used that much. And I totally agree with the Digma plugin that are really useful. Like, again, giving the feedback as you are working on the code, instead of you make your change and then commit to the GitHub and then run the pipeline and then get to know, okay, there are some issues. You can use those plugins. And yes, so these are all like, as I mentioned, AI does its best, but it is not like you can completely rely on it solely. It is like a augment, provide some more help, but uh, probably now we are not at a phase where you can just trust and then completely rely on only on this AI provided information. So here, if you take a look at, like I asked something and Juni come up with a plan, okay, what it needs to do. First, read the broad structure, understand the key configurations, explore core domain entities and all that. And so it did all that and then created this file. If I go here, I can see, okay, what are the good parts of it and where can I improve the things, and some areas for improvement. Consider using Lombok. This is going to piss off many people if it
Yeah, so
has areas for improvement.
that's, I don't know. I think that's a paid comment from the Lombok developers. I don't know. Actually, yeah. Friends, write in the comments if you use Lombok or not, if you love it or hate it. And also write in the comments, so what is your favorite IntelliJ IDEA plugin that you use, like that you can't live without. So I'm really curious about that. But yeah, I recently actually dropped the usage of Lombok like to zero. So when I started my developer journey, I thought, yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I don't have to write all those lengthy methods. But when you mature, you understand that in some cases it is actually much better when you have full control over the code that you write. And Lombok goes through love-hate relationship with developers, as far as I know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you want to trigger a bunch of Java folks, just say something about Lombok.
yeah,
It can be good or bad. Just people get triggered.
yeah.
So So yeah, so here we can see like it just understood all the things, and this is really I keep doing this every time I build some application. So because sometimes we don't even aware of certain things. So here, okay, I casually because it's simple POC, I configure to allow all the origins. But in production, we shouldn't be doing this. We should allow only some allowed origins. So by asking AI, it gives a long list of things, but as we have just seen, maybe not every session is correct or aligned with your team preferences. So, but it's a good starting point. Like you can read through all of them and then you can improve certain things.
Yeah, there's a comment that the plugin, the favorite plugin, the Spring Debugger. Ooh, that's a nice one. Siva, are you going to tell us something today about Spring Debugger?
So I'm
Ooh,
going to talk a lot about that.
cool.
Yeah. So in addition to doing this, one thing that I realized, I mean, most of the AI agentic IDEs provide some mechanism where you can specify guidelines or rules or whatever, where you can say, okay, this is how our team preference are like when it comes to coding. Okay, this is how I would like to structure my application, and these are the guidelines I would like you to follow, like Java guidelines. Okay, use Java 24 features wherever appropriate, use records, text blocks, whatever. And also, how do you want to log? And okay, Spring Boot guidelines, prefer constructor injection or field injection, or maybe how do you want to organize your properties, or how do you want to handle transactions, where you want to start the transaction boundaries. So like this, you can configure all these guidelines and it is going to follow along. Again, we cannot say 100% of the times it is going to follow every single guideline here, but in my experience, this significantly increases the chance of getting the result in according to these guidelines. And especially, what I noticed with Juni, let's say usually we have one flow, right? We have API controllers, and then we have service layer, and then you have repository layer and all. When you implement one flow and then ask Juni to implement another scenario, first Juni is going to check another flow that exists, and then it's going to follow along in the similar lines. That is how we human developers also do, right? When you join a new project and then you are given a task, and what you do first, you check a similar flow and then you follow along. This is what team agreed upon, this is the structure, and this is exactly how Juni also doing. So that is another very interesting thing. And if you are curious, you can check out this guidelines initiative. So here we have started this Juni guidelines thing, and the reason is, going forward, we are going to rely on AI agents for development. That is for sure, right? But also, we need to educate our fellow junior developers also why we are following certain guidelines. Why should I use constructor injection? What if I will use field injection? Is something going to be terribly wrong with that? So we need to educate not only our junior developers, but also we need to provide these guidelines to AI. So this is where we thought it is good. Here there are two variations. If you go to this link, you will see a guidelines.md file with all the guidelines that you give to Juni. Whereas if you click on this with explanations, here is like, okay, this is the guideline to AI. but this is the explanation for us developers why we are following certain thing. It should not be blindly, okay, I decided to follow this, go ahead and do it. But for fellow developers, you need to explain why we are doing this in this way. Okay, so if you are interested, go ahead and check out Juni guidelines in JetBrains organization. There are a bunch of guidelines for not only for Java Spring Boot, we are planning to provide that guidelines for other languages and other frameworks as well.
Right. Well, that's nice. Siva, I have another question, of course.
Sure.
All right. So, Juni is a new plugin, and I'm sure lots of developers are going to give it a try because it's so exciting. But what do you think? Are there any like hidden jewels in IntelliJ, some plugins that you think that every Spring developer should enable, but most of them never heard of?
Mm, Okay, one thing I already talked about JPA, but that is if you are working with JPA, that is a must have a plugin. And now, not strictly for a Spring developer, I use few. I Okay, there is one JPA Buddy, and then there is Spring Debugger. I would say if you explore Spring Debugger features, that will surely blow your mind. That's okay. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Um yeah. I think at the moment I'm not getting any other plugins, but there are some plugins that helps me, uh, but nothing specific to Spring development. Usually there are some plugins which will collapse these and show only the artifact ID and things like that without all this verbosity. So there are, I think I made a video on my IntelliJ setup and I explained what plugins I use. Probably you can check out. I have a YouTube channel called Siva Labs. Uh, I will encourage you to just check out, go to Siva Labs and then IntelliJ. Most likely you'll get a video.
Nice, nice. Right. Okay, so I'll post a link to Sio's channel into the comments. Right. So I think yeah. So how about the plugins? I saw in the tab that you opened that there's the reverse engineering plugin. Was
That
that?
comes bundled with IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, where this is what exactly like, okay, if you start, if you have a database, you can generate the entities and from the database to entities. And also, uh, I have earlier published a article how to use Flyway for database migrations. It is not only DB first. Let's say some teams start with the database schema and then work with entities and that, right? But some teams prefer to start with JPA entities and then create Flyway migration out of it. So even IntelliJ supports that as well. Like let's say you have already a database and you have a bunch of entities created. Now you want to create Flyway migration script. Now you can do that as well. Like you can go ahead and select in the persistence window, you can select and create Flyway init migration. It is going to take a look at your entities and then it is going to generate Flyway migration script. So it supports either you start with database first or JPA entities first. Either way, you can use this feature to generate either Flyway schema or JPA entities. So I would say if anyone is interested in JPA and Spring Boot, I would say explore JPA Buddy. There are a ton of features.
Hey, so why do you prefer Flyway over Liquibase?
I mean, I haven't used Liquibase that much. It is simply like my purpose is solved with Flyway, and I prefer to write my scripts in plain SQL. That's it. There is no other explanation. But I heard Liquibase is even more powerful, where you can write in one format like YAML or XML, and then you can tune it to different databases as well. So I would say
Yeah.
it is more powerful. I heard it is just like for my needs, Flyway is sufficient, so I did this. But again, all this support, whatever I explained in this article, it works for Liquibase as well. Again,
Mhm.
if you have JPA entities, you can generate Liquibase migrations, or if you have Liquibase migrations, and then you applied it to database, and then you can generate entities. So this support works for both Flyway and Liquibase as well.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah. So as for me, I usually work with Liquibase because I guess I'm just used to using YAML, but Liquibase also can do SQL, and it has
Yeah,
lots
yeah.
of features. Yeah, and I actually recently recorded a video. It's going to be like half an hour long, well, where I explain lots of things about Liquibase, how to use it with Spring Boot. So a little bit of advertisement of myself. Guys, friends, subscribe to Cyberchar channel, and well, you'll be the first to see this video. And also, Flyway is planned, also a tutorial on Flyway. Yeah, so please post in the comments what are you using, Liquibase or Flyway, and we'll see which database migration tool wins. Or maybe it's uh, Lombok. Oh, sorry, gosh, Mongok. That's with MongoDB, but it's well, if you use NoSQL databases.
Okay. So another tip I would like to give while using AI tools, Agentic IDE is, so the more detailed prompt you give, the better results you get. So one thing I started following is creating these specification files where for every use case, I am going to create, okay, what is the use case and what are the prerequisites and what is the expected outcome and what exactly my API endpoint look like and how the sample response should look like. So I describe this in detail, and then I ask Zuni, and then just attach this, let's say, go to here, and then I'll say, okay, here, okay, I'll assign this, and then just say implement login, and then it is going to follow along this. I get a better results with this more detailed specification than simply asking, okay, implement user login API endpoint. There can be, it doesn't know that I am going to use email. It may assume username, and then you need to refactor. Instead, if you clearly give this, okay, this is the exact request look like, and this is how the response should look like, you get a much better result. So this is how I create for all the use cases in my application. I create a detailed use case. And this is like forget about AI. This is how we should be doing. Like whenever you are working on a task, you should get the complete clarity. If you don't have, you should ask the people, okay, what is the exact requirement and what is the outcome you are expecting. So somehow AI is making us to go back and then start doing something good. Like, okay, you need to get the clarity what you are trying to build. So it is nice. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to show you a Spring Debugger feature. Why? Again, let
Cool. Yeah. Spring Debugger. I mean, the legends are already walking around Spring
yes.
Debugger, so exciting part.
So again, it is fun to wipe code a small POC, and then yeah, I in a just 5-10 minutes you get a decent application that is super cool. But if you have to debug some wipe coded application, let's say, especially in a real big project, it's not that much of a pleasure experience, right? And also, why Spring Debugger in the first place? So here we are Java developers, right? We usually build enterprise software that may run for decades. So obviously we thought through a lot of things, and then we love making everything as configurable as possible, right?
Yeah.
If you don't believe, let me quickly Spring Boot externalized configuration. Okay, so let's go to this. Just take a look at how many ways you can provide the configuration to your application. 15 plus some variations, and then there are more ways, like Spring Cloud Config Server, there is a Spring Vault, and then there is a Spring Kubernetes support with secrets and all. There are a ton of ways where you can provide the configuration, and not only just configuration, Spring Boot provides a whole lot of ways, and it is highly flexible framework. And again, with great flexibility comes with great confusion and a lot of debugging headaches also, right? Like you have too much of magic. Again, some people don't like to use the word magic. If you know how it works, it is not magic. But the reality is many new developers start, or even developers who are not proficient in Java and Spring Boot also sometimes have to work on the application. They just need to get started, and then they don't understand all the behind the scenes auto configuration and everything, and then they need to debug a Spring Boot application, which is kind of a challenging. So this is where Spring Debugger comes into picture. Like let's go through some of the features it offers. So here I have a simple REST API for a simple blog application, and it is, let's just expand a few things. Okay, now if I start the application, here you can right away see which components are loaded into your application, which are not loaded. Here you can see email service is kind of a highlighted, but Slack notification service is kind of a grayed out, indicating that this bean is not loaded into your application context. Why? Because I specified conditional on property. Only if this property is enabled, then only load this bean. But right now I have not enabled that property. That's why this bean is not loaded into the application context. So giving a visual cue about what components are loaded, what are not loaded is kind of a nice to have. Again, if you take a look at the properties file, we have application.properties, which of course by default it loads. And then there is application-local.properties. Basically, local is a profile. If I want to run my application locally with a different set of properties, I can enable local profile and then run it. Okay, right now I have not enabled a local profile, so it is kind of a grayed out. Nice feature. Okay, so now next, DB connection auto registration. This is my favorite feature. Why? I heavily use Docker Compose for running all the dependencies of the application, be it a database, be it Redis or whatever. I either use Docker Compose or I may use test container support. So here we have, let's say, test containers configuration. Again, here we can configure what components we want to use. And it is going to automatically start this and then start our application configuring to these Postgres or whatever other containers I'm going to use. But the challenging part is it is going to map to a random available port on the host machine. So I can give a fixed port like this. But the problem is if I'm working in a microservices or different applications, multiple applications at the same time, there is a good chance that there can be port conflicts, and then I need to keep a tab on, okay, that application is mapped to 5432, that Postgres, and this service database is mapped to 254. So we need to do all that thing, right? But now with Spring Debugger, you don't need to map that, and you just let me stop this. And you don't even need to create a data source here. You just start your application, and Spring Debugger plugin takes care of identifying that what dynamic port it is mapped on the host. So here, this is a dynamic port, 60147 is a dynamic port. and it figured out. So right now there is one small issue where you need to manually refresh, but we are working on making it automatic. So here it is going to automatically establish that database connection, and you can see all the database tables and everything. You don't need to manually go ahead and add data source and all that. It is going to take care. And no matter how many applications you run, you never get into these port conflict issues. My favorite feature.
So does it mean, do I understand correctly that the plugin tears down the data sources when the container stops?
So here, if you stop, it's going to remove that. But if you start it again, it's going to re-establish that connection. But if you want it to persist, you can also use this clone and persist. So it is going to stick around. It is not going to delete automatically if you stop the application.
I see. Well, that's cool. And that's cool that we can, well, first of all, manually control that. And secondly, that it automatically deletes the data source so that we don't end up with zombie connections, right? So that's,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, and this support not only works with Docker Compose. Let's say here I am starting using test container support. So it is going to work in the same way with test container support as well. And it's going to register database connection in the similar way. And also, cool thing is if you are running any tests, let's say, if you are running any tests, okay, so here if you want to debug, okay, you wrote a test but you don't know why it is failing, so you can put a breakpoint and then you can connect to the database and verify, okay, where things are going wrong. You can check, okay, what is the data, and then you can verify why it is failing, something like that. So it works with Docker Compose, it works with test containers, and it works with tests as well. Not only here we are writing Spring Boot test, integration test. Not only with integration test, if you have a data JPA test or a JDBC test, it works fine with that also.
That's so cool. I mean, it means that we can peek into the database instance that we have spin up to see what's going on, right? So what went wrong? That's, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So please tell me which databases are supported by Spring Debugger?
So now all the relational databases are supported, all the non-in-memory databases like JDBC, PostgreSQL, MySQL, MongoDB, Oracle, all those things, and also MongoDB. And we are planning to add more databases support, but right now SQL databases plus MongoDB, that also works.
Cool. Well, that's a very good set. I mean, I love MongoDB, and I'm happy that it's already there. Yeah. So another database like Redis. Well, I think the team will add support pretty soon. So.
Yeah. So the another thing, showing actual property values. As I mentioned, we Java developers love configuring things in different ways, and then occasionally we scratch our heads, where does this value is coming from? Okay. So if, let's say, I can enable a profile, let's say I would like to enable local profile. Okay. So now if I start the application in debug mode, so all these Spring Debugger features will be available when you start the application in debugger mode, not in normal mode. Okay, so here, if you take a look at, I don't know whether you can clearly see it or not, in my application.properties file, I expose the actuator endpoints for only info and health. This is the thing I wrote in my application.properties file. But if you get a, if you notice here, there is a inlay text that shows value is star. So somebody overridden this value to be star, which means expose all the actuator endpoints. Okay, where does this value is coming from? Assume if you don't have this inlay information, you need to again go and kind of explore why I wrote this info and health, but it is taking star value. Where does this is coming from? So you need to go ahead and hunt for all this configuration. But right now, you can simply click on it. It is going to take to the place where it actually set that value. In our case, we enabled local profile, and those default values in application.properties file are overridden with these values. So here I set, instead of health and info, expose all. And also I configured another cron expression. If you take a look at cron, so earlier this is configured to run every Saturday 9 p.m. But for my local testing, I want to run at every minute or so. Again, it overridden. So you can see all the actual values, and you can just click on, and then it will take you to where it is getting this value from. So this is very cool, especially if you have to debug these configuration issues. This comes really, really handy.
Yeah, that's totally so. How about multi-module projects? How does Spring Debugger handle them?
So it is going to work in the same fashion. Like even if you have multiple modules, finally it's going to be one Spring Boot application, right? So it works in the same way.
Mm-hmm. I see. And we have a question. So, can it be used for remote debugging? Got it?
I think that is in the development, I guess. This topic came up, like we would like to have this all these features for remotely connected to. I think right now it doesn't, but it is in the discussions. I think there is a plan to support.
Cool. Cool. Right. Okay.
And another nice feature, like you can actually see the database transaction in progress right now. Let's say, let's go to, so here, okay, I just want to debug something in this flow. I want to get all the posts, but in this flow, I would like to debug something. So here I have a breakpoint in my controller, but then I would like to stop at my service. In this service, I have a transactional annotation, which obviously started the transaction here. You can see the transaction where it started, and you can navigate to the method where it actually started the transaction. And here you can see, okay, is it a read-only transaction? What is the isolation level? What is the propagation? And what do we have in the Hibernate L1 cache? You can see all that information here itself. You think, okay, fine, but I can right away see this here, right? What is the big deal? The big deal is, let me stop this. Okay, so let's say we are starting a transaction not in the service layer. I'm not advocating to start a transaction in controller, but I'm just demonstrating a feature here. So here we are starting a transaction at the controller itself, and then here I would like to make the propagation as requires new. Okay, so now let me start, and let me trigger that API endpoint. So now here itself we can see post controller itself started this transaction. Now I'll pause it, and here you can see I am in post service, and here I have a different transaction because I specified requires new, which means it needs to suspend the current transaction and starts a new one. So here right now I am in this transaction, but you can also see where is the parent transaction that gets started. So this really helps to understand, because many developers that I know who are using Spring Boot for a very, very long time make this mistake of, they have some propagation level on one method, and then they call another method in the same class, but they put either a different propagation level or something like that, and then they call that method from here, and then wonder why it is not taking care of this properties, why they are not being applied. It doesn't, because it's a local method call. You can debug all that information because you can see whether it is running in which transaction. Is it started in a controller or is it started in a post service? So you get all the hierarchy of where the actual transaction is started in the current code, where in which transaction all this code is running. You get all that information here. So this is really helpful.
It really is. So Spring Debugger is now part of IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, right?
I think as of now, you need to explicitly install it, but I guess in the coming versions, it's going to be bundled out of the box.
Fingers crossed. Right. Well, that's cool. That's cool.
This might blow your mind off. Like usually when we are debugging anything, we get access to whatever we have in the scope. Right now, we are in post service, right? We are in this method. So usually in our debugger, we have access to all the components that are injected into this one, right? Right now, we can say, okay, we have post repository in scope, so we can use, and then we can call whatever method we want to call. Like I just want to see what it happens. So here I got some value. This is fine. This is a normal debugger feature. You can debug, you can evaluate expressions based on what components you have in the scope. But let's say here there is no user repository injected here, right? It is not in this scope, but still we can access all the Spring Beans even if they are not in the current scope. Let's say I just want to find out, is there a user with this email? Yes, there is one. So you can access any bean, any Spring Bean, and you can invoke and check. Not only Spring Beans, you can use entire application context. You can use, and then you can verify, okay, I want to get some bean of certain type, and you want to realize, okay, what kind of implementation is injected. Maybe you have an interface and then you have a bunch of implementation and you want to verify which implementation is actually picked up. So you have the access to entire application context and all the Spring Beans. And if you want to check something using directly with Entity Manager, you can also do that. So you can say, okay, I just want to get a post with ID 1. So you can do that as well. Okay. So you have all the power of Spring Boot or context, and you can verify everything right here. So imagine if this feature is not available and I'm trying to debug something and I want to verify something in database related to users. But right now I don't have that here. You can't debug with a normal debugger, right? You need to have that reference in this scope, otherwise you cannot call. But right now, with the Spring Debugger, you have access to every Spring Bean in the application context.
That's so cool. I mean, yeah. Do you think that this is the coolest feature of Spring Debugger?
Very powerful, I would say. For debugging anything, this is super powerful.
Yeah.
And again, you have entire access to environment. You can say, okay, I want to know what is the port, but you can also have auto completion, and you can see what are the other properties you configure. So you can inspect everything about the Spring application, Spring Boot application here.
That's really cool. Love it.
And also, so far what we have explored is under Java. If you go to Spring properties, here again you can check what are the effective properties of your application. So here you can see If you want to inspect properties only, you can switch to this. So this is my another favorite feature. Like this is super cool.
We will have a question from the audience. Does it work with DCEVM?
What is the DCVM?
DCEVM.
Sorry, I don't know what is DCVM.
Okay, Pasha, could you please clarify what you mean? Yeah, okay. So yeah, while we're waiting, is there anything else we should know about Spring Debugger?
I think that's these are the things that I would like to highlight. There are a few more features, but considering the time, let's move on. So okay, now you can ask, okay, why we are talking about Spring Debugger, all these features, we switched from AI to debugger. The reason is like you can ask AI and then you can get more or things like that. But once in a while, you get into a situation where you got to run your application and debug something that's not working. At the moment, we have very powerful LLMs and it is going to generate good code, but we are not at a phase where it's just going to work all the times. You had to run your application and then you had to debug. When in that situation, these features are going to be really helpful.
Okay. Oh, we have the answer from Pasha. So DCVM, that's the tool that is inside JBR that allows to reload classes in runtime.
Actually, that is again in discussion. We ask for okay now, can we can inspect the property changes, but can we change some property values and then reload the entire application context? It is under the discussion because once the application is started, depending on some property values, many things get initialized, and if you change something, you need to figure out what are all the beans you need to recreate. So that is still in discussion. There is a kind of discussion going on, like should we implement that, how feasible it is. But that is a feature that would be super cool, like you just change things on the fly and then get it reload. That is going to be very awesome.
Okay, cool. The audience can't seem to let Spring Debugger go. We have another question. So, can we see underlying SQL queries generated from JPA, like on the debug console?
Yes, I think. I need to verify. I mean, usually there is a feature where you can enable show SQL, but it is not going to show the actual values. It is going to show with the placeholders. Let's say you want to say where email equals to something. It's going to show with question marks. But that is something I would like to see. But again, I mean, I'm not directly answering that question, but what I do, I use a library called P6Py, and there is other library as well doing something similar, where I configure a Spring Boot starter with that, and it is going to log all the SQL statements with the values, actual values also, and also it provides a lot of. Let me start this and
P6Py. All right, I'll post it in the comments and I'll check it out too. Thanks.
so here it is going to show all the sequels with actual values as well. Let me trigger an API endpoint. Okay, go. So here you can see all the values, but okay, here. So yes, here you can see without the actual values and with actual values. So you can see all this. This is the library I use, but there is another library that is well integrated with the micrometer thing as well. So
Okay. Well, that's nice. Thanks. Thanks for the heads up. Right.
okay, cool. So far we were talking about in an application how we can build features and how we can leverage AI things and all that. But what about architecture level? Like I kind of think microservices hype is kind of a settled down now. More or less, we know, okay, do you need microservices or you don't need microservice because microservice is shiny and all that, but it comes with a lot of baggage and maintenance costs and all that. So I personally know some companies who jumped on the microservices bandwagon and then they face a lot of challenges and then slowly they kind of again merging the microservices. So again, I would say do not go overboard and start over engineering things. My recommendation is start with a monolithic application and then you know which areas you need to scale up and then probably you can extract them as monolithic microservices. But until then, it is a good step to start with monolith. But the problem always we face is monoliths over the time get big balls of mud, right? You start calling other service that start calling your components, and over the time it gets messy. And this is where Spring Modulith comes in. And I really like Spring Modulith. And what Spring Modulith does is it will help you to keep the boundaries strictly isolated. I mean, if you are exposing some API and any other package here, let's consider a module. Here, users is a module, shared is a module, notification is a module. So each sub package under the main package is a module. And here, only the public API that is exposed is allowed to call. So here, from users API, you can, let's make a realistic example. So from content API, here from any of these components, you can call users API, okay? But you are not allowed to call anything in the nested packages, even if it is a public class. Technically, Java compiler allows you, but Spring Modulith prevents you from injecting this user service into any of these packages. It is going to allow you only the public API that is exposed from the modules. So this is going to impose these restrictions so that you have clear boundaries where you don't have circular dependencies or you poke into some other modules internal components, so you have clear separation. So this is another thing to really consider. And the best part is you can validate that in an automated fashion. Simply one test, you are going to load the modules of your entire application and then simply verify. It is going to check whether you are strictly following these module boundaries or did you violate anything. So it is going to simply run the test and then verify that. So if you are starting any project or even if you are working with any existing project, I would highly recommend to check out this before going all microservice and fancy things.
That's cool. I also love Spring Modulith. Actually, I think that's in my nature to have everything structured, and it enables us to structure the project in a very, very clear way. Siva, could you tell me how do we test the project based on Spring Modulith, just like any other regular monolith, or is there something else that we should do, like configure or tweak?
So out of the box, you don't have to do anything except you just need to add Spring Modulith dependencies, and also there is a test module. Okay, so there are multiple features, but just to have this boundary verifications, this is sufficient. And then if you follow the conventions where this package, com Siva Labs blog is the package. You have this main entry point class, right? So this is going to consider as a root module, and all these are modules. Okay, so here config is a module and content is a module, and all these are considered as modules. Now, by default, these components inside the package, each module, which are public, are considered as exposed API. So that means I have exposed this user context utils for other modules to consume. And also I exposed users API for other modules to consume. They are not allowed to call anything inside this directly. But for whatever reason, if I want to allow anybody else to use some components, for example, here I exposed users API, but I also want to share this object, right? So in that case, I can put some of the components in a package and then I can name it. So if I use a named interface, that is kind of allowing other modules to depend on this as well. So this is another thing. And you can have, let's say this is a shared module and it is allowed to, these are all closed modules. That means only the public API is allowed to be called by other modules. But if you have a package which are kind of you have a bunch of things that can be used by anybody, even the nested classes, you can make it as a open type module. That means not only in this package itself, but anybody can use all the nested package classes as well. So this is the arrangement you have, and then it is going to verify this modularity with this simple test. That's all there is to it. Apart from it, there is a event mechanism also, where one module can publish an event and you can configure it to use some persistence mechanism. And then as soon as you publish an event, it is going to be stored in a database table. You can choose which database you want, and then the listener will consume that message. And then once it is successful, either you can configure it to mark it as completed, or you can delete that record, something like that. So a kind of a lightweight mechanism, and that is another feature that you can leverage using Spring Modulith.
Okay, well, that's cool. That's really cool, friends. I really encourage you to try out Spring Modulith with your next project, because it gives you a very good starting point with the structure of your application, which you then can break into microservices if you really need to, evenly, right? So you already have this pre-microservice structure, and it's going to be much easier than untangle the regular monolith, right, Siva?
Yep, correct. So in addition to that, you can also generate the documentation. Again, it is going to introspect all the actual code, and then you can see this plant UML diagram with C4 components, which module depends on which other module, and you can get a visual picture of how your module, your application is structured. The best part is it is going to reflect the actual code change. Earlier, we used to draw diagrams in the beginning of the project, and then over the time, things change, but those diagrams never get updated, right? But this is going to reflect what your actual code looks like. So this is something nice.
Yeah, it is. As far as you can see, it uses plant UML. Right.
Yes.
So a very nice diagram tool that you can actually build a native image of. Yeah.
You can actually expose that as a image also, I guess, somewhere. So yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. So Pasha, who's here or also, he wrote an article on creating native images using the plant UML as an example. Which is kind of nice, because you may want to use plant UML as a desktop app, and with native image it will load like in several milliseconds, which is just super cool. So I'll post the link to
Nice.
the article, yeah, in the comments. Hey.
Cool. Cool. So that's all I have to share today. So yeah. So to summarize, I know some people still fighting with no, I don't use AI. I just want to do it in my own way. Things changed, and there is no going back. We have to adjust and uh, learn how to use them, how to use and work for you instead of fighting with them. I would suggest to learn how to use them and make yourself more productive, and also learn how to fine tune these LLMs so that it is kind of generate a code that you like to prefer according to the team preferences. And yeah, I mean, there is always a fear of, okay, A is going to take my job, and what if we are going to jobless and all that. But if you see the history, every time some shiny thing comes that says it is going to automate all the things and we need less people, it actually created more jobs. So I I would say AI is going to create a lot of jobs in future. So I'm very optimistic about it.
Do you think that there is the risk that major companies will implement AI instead of hiring junior devs, and so we will have at some point a gap in the quantity of senior engineers? Because to become a senior, you have to go all the way from being a junior, right? And if AI is going to substitute juniors, then we won't have any seniors. So, what do you think?
Actually, a couple of days back, I actually talked to a friend who said their company just stopped hiring junior developers. They want to invest in get some AI agents and then get things faster. I'm not sure how that works in the long run. Right now, you can do that, but where does the senior developers come from? They are not going to come out of sky. You need to grow them. You need to hire juniors. But only thing I would say, the way we are building applications is going to change. You might write a different type of software, not REST APIs, and because AI might evolve into a phase where you just describe the application that you want to build in a very detailed way, and it may evolve to a phase where it just develops completely with good code quality. But who is going to develop those AI tools and all that? We still need developers. So maybe if you are trying to be in this field, maybe learn how to use AI and build all these tools, MCP servers and all that. So yeah, I am very optimistic. It is going to create more jobs, in my opinion.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a nice view. I like it. It's optimistic, and I don't like being pessimistic. So, yeah, right. Okay, friends, if you have any questions for Siva, please post them in the comments. We'll spend like a couple of more minutes wrapping up. So I also have some questions. Right. So, Siva, if JetBrains let you add one super cool feature to IntelliJ IDEA like tomorrow. Saying that's magic, right? What would you add to IntelliJ IDEA?
I have a kind of a thought where I want to have IntelliJ IDEA two modes. One is a light mode optimized for AI driven development where I open IntelliJ IDEA. It's a very lightweight with basic syntax highlighting, Git support, and things like that, and with a good uh, input box to enter prompt with our jazzy features. And it's going to generate the code based on whatever I provide the context and everything, where I don't want all these debuggers and all these features. But once I want to explore something and I want to debug something, I should be able to switch to a beast mode where you load all the jazzy features and debuggers and all the fancy things, and then you are a power user now. You are not a white coder or thing. So that is what I am envisioning. Like your IDE should have two modes, lighter mode, where 60% of the times things go, you use AI, it generates the code, it is good enough, and you commit it. But you get stuck somewhere and then you want to start the application and debug and everything. Now you go switch to beast mode. You have all the power IntelliJ provides, and yeah, you can do all the things. So
Cool.
that is what I would like to implement.
Cool. Do you think that containerization of application has something to do with developer productivity, or it is completely not their headache, not their problems? They just develop apps and shouldn't care about the containers that ship in production.
No, I feel like Docker basically generically the containerization itself is a big step in the software development. Like earlier, I still remember the days where I install one version of JDK and then I need to work on a different version, and then I need to install two different versions of PostgreSQL, port configs, and all these headaches. I do not have, and I haven't not even remember those days now. I just spin up a Postgres container or whatever the container I need, and I can just once I'm done, I can just clean it up and get a clean laptop, like nothing happened here. And then also from the deployment point of view, now I don't have to sit with the DevOps team and then telling what commands to run and all that. I just give a Docker image and they take care of deployment, and it's all standardized. So Dockerization, I mean containerization is I really I can't do anything without having Docker now. So I know one of my friend recently wanted to do something, and I shared my repository, and he said, I don't have Docker. Then I don't know how to start my application. I forgot how to install Postgres. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't go back to those days.
Good old times. Good old times, yeah. Right. Do you think that the choice of the JDK distribution can affect developer productivity? So, does it matter which JDK they use?
I mean, it depends on in which environment we are talking about. From the development point of view, I mean, I don't even really pay much attention to which version of JDK I'm using. But from the deployment point of view, that is something we should really think about. Like, again, depending on the features you are using, let's say Spring is now introducing class data sharing and all that. And there are some JDK versions that are optimized for that kind of a workloads, and some features are supported by only certain JDKs. So from the deployment point of view, I would say definitely you need to pay attention. From the development, I think most of the times any JDK just works fine.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. So, I might add here that yeah, so if the workflow is pretty simple, you might just be okay with a vanilla JDK bundle, right? You don't need any special features, but it depends, right, on what you need. So, for instance, Liberica JDK, well, yeah, me being a developer advocate for Liberica JDK, offers several bundles, like with the JavaFX, the standard one, the Lite for the cloud. So you don't have to add any external dependencies for FX, for instance. There's also a bundle with crack support, coordinate restore checkpoint. There is a Liberica native image kit for creating native images. And Liberica JDK is used by default in Spring Build Pack. So you can actually unify your development environment, right? So using the same JDK everywhere, right? So and that's a nice thing to do. So I personally like when everything is unified, right? So I use the one solution, but with different features for various purposes, like that.
Definitely, definitely, I totally agree. Like, if there is a way where you can use the same JDK, I would strongly recommend doing that, because you don't want to do on something with a different JDK, and then, well, again, maybe 80% of the times it just works fine. But maybe there are cases, depending on what kind of features you are using, it is better to use the same JDK that you are going to use in production. It is just like how I recommend using test containers for testing. If you are going to use Oracle in production, test with Oracle. Don't test with H2 and then hope for best and then deploy to Oracle only to know, oh no, it is not working later point of time. You should be
Exactly.
using the same JDK.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Siva, what JDK version do you use? I mean, the version. So do you use the latest and greatest 24th, or do you prefer to stick LTS versions like 21, the latest one?
So I am a developer advocate now, which means I am not actually working on real applications. I build various applications, but it's not real production application. So I have the luxury of choosing whichever version I want to use. Now until last month, I stick with 21, but I just upgraded all my applications to
Mm-hmm.
24 now. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, my case might be different than regular developers where they have reasons to use it like 17 or 21, but now I have the luxury of using all versions. Like sometimes I may have to verify, okay, if this feature is working fine with IntelliJ so and so version, with Spring Boot so and so version, then I go ahead and install, okay, Spring Boot 3.2 with Java 17, is there any issue? So I try multiple versions and all that.
Yeah. Are you going to upgrade to Java 25 when it comes in just 2 months?
I, I will. Uh, Actually, I maintain a few repositories that are helping me as kind of a test bed. Like whenever a new version of IntelliJ released or Spring Boot released or even test container released, I try to upgrade and then I get to know, okay, is everything smooth or is there any issues? For example, right now, I try to upgrade some of the applications that I build to Spring Boot 4 snapshot version.
Mhm.
And yeah,
I see.
I see Spring Boot split the monolithic kind of auto configuration into specific modules now, and it worked for some applications, but there are kind of some
Mm-hmm.
is breaking.
I
So
see. Yeah. Well, yeah, and Java 25 will bring some like super exciting features. There are several additions to JFR, Java Flight Recorder, the profiler. There are two more jobs coming from Project Layden, right? Enhancing
mhm.
the AOT cache, which is like super cool. I love Project Layden. Yeah, and IntelliJ Spring now supports AppCDS, and the Spring team recommends right now to use AOT cache actually instead of AppCDS if you're using Java 24 because it gives much better results in startup, in application startup. But we, Siva and I, being the developer advocates, can get to test the latest and greatest features, cutting edge solutions, and play around with them, experiment. And I think that's a very beautiful part of being a developer advocate, don't you think, Siva?
Yes, absolutely. Now I am going to upgrade some of my applications to Java 25, Spring Boot 4, all cutting edge, and IntelliJ 2025.2 or beta or whatever. So it is part of the developer advocacy. You need to verify things are working or not and demonstrate how you can leverage the newest versions supported by your Reddy. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Siva. That was a super interesting talk. I mean, we got to learn about the latest and greatest features in IntelliJ IDEA in Spring Boot. So, and friends, just go ahead and test out all the things that, all the goodies that Siva was describing today. And may your productivity always be at the peak, right? The peak performance. Right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who visited us today. The recording of the stream will be available on the CyberJar channel, so you can watch it anytime or rewatch it. Rewatch the most interesting parts that you think were most important for you. So, yeah, I think we are saying goodbye right now. So, until next time, stay tuned. Right. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.